Mahindra and Mahindra is a household name in India, but it's also a highly regarded global manufacturer of cars, pickups, motorcycles, and it's even the world's biggest tractor maker. What's next for Mahindra? Arun Nanda, a director of the company, joins me now from the INSEAD India Business Dialogue in Mumbai. Arun, thank you for joining me on INSEAD Knowledge. Mr. Nanda, you joined Mahindra in 1973. What would you say are the key components of the company's growth since then?
I think it's not one answer, there's multiple things, but if I was to take the key points, I think value for money products, and that's what has helped us because, Professor Prahlad used to talk of bottom of pyramid, and we've stayed with the value for money brand. Of course, we do have higher end brands like the XUV, but bulk of our sales come from the value from money brands, and that gets us the volume. The globalization was actually a well thought out strategy because we had ambitions, for example, in tractor to become the world's largest tractor manufacturer, and you can't get there unless you have a global footprint. It was not only for volumes that we went global, we also went for other things, primarily getting better quality because the global customers, and the first market we went to was United States, which is the most demanding market, and was primarily driven by the fact that if we can make products which will meet that market, then we can go to any other market. The other reason is that we reorganized our businesses and we stayed with certain businesses. Although we are a conglomerate, we decided to focus on certain areas and we stayed with that. But if I was to put one thing on top of it, I would say empowerment of management, because in a conglomerate, if you do not have empowered managers in the verticals, then it doesn't work because one man cannot run the show. So I think that's our biggest strength, because empowerment has not only brought in quick decision making, but it has also brought in a lot more innovation into the company, quicker decision makings. We have created a huge talent pool, and that's why although the company is growing, we've been able to manage from internal growth people. So I think empowerment would be the most important criteria for our growth.
What would you say are the key attributes needed for Indian companies to become multinationals?
The first thing is, don't do it because it's a fad. And if you look at the history of Indian business, people who went out in 2007, 8, 9, when it was fashionable to go abroad, most of those companies have run into trouble. But from a positive side, what are the things that we would look at before we looked at the normal things, the IRRs and the growth potential and all that? We would look at strategic fit. What is it that you're looking for? Like as I told you, when we went to US to sell tractors, we were looking at selling to the American customer, which is the most demanding customer, which will force us to improve our quality to international standards. When we acquired a software company called Bristlecone, it was very clearly to have a front-end company which had connections and interface with the local automobile market in Detroit, so that we could do work back-end and that company. So you must know exactly what you're looking for. You should not buy a company because it's a good company.
Mahindra has made some ambitious attempts to enter the luxury market, for example with its bids for Saab and Aston Martin. What does this say about the company's ambitions for the luxury segment?
The luxury vehicle is, one of our ambitions is to make Mahindra a global brand, and that's more a branding strategy. We still feel that bulk of our sale, turnover and profits are going to come from value for money products. But we have constantly, even in the domestic market, we first introduced Scorpio, now XUV. We are taking our brand positioning up because, if you have an aspirational product, even your bottom of the pyramid products sell better because it's coming from a stable of aspirational products. Aston Martin was looked at primarily from the point of view of improving the brand, bringing some technology into the company, because that they have obviously very strong R&D capabilities, designing capabilities. So that is how we had looked at it.
You also recently took a majority stake in SsangYong Motors in Korea. What can we deduce for this about your plans for your vehicle lines?
See, SsangYong was bought because SsangYong was affordable and it had a very good distribution reach in the countries that we wanted to get to. It had higher end SUVs out of its stable, and the success of SsangYong is, of course, the company had some inherent strength. But if you look at SsangYong, that's one company where we have left the Korean management to run the company, and I think it's culturally, if the market is very different, then you don't go and impose your culture on that organization and you integrate into that culture. And that was one of the right things that our teams did to make SsangYong successful.
Mahindra has managed to buck the trend of falling car sales in its home market in India. What's your outlook for India?
We bucked the trend because of the innovative product. Because if you look at our products, we started with pure people carrier vehicles or goods carrier vehicle, and we gradually moved into vehicles which started eating into the saloon car market. And I think dieselization, value for money, and a wide range of products, including people carriers like Maximos and others which have come in, have really helped us buck the trend. While the automobile industry went down, we actually grew in high teens during the last year.
So is it about adding more markets, or is it about bringing the whole product category upwards?
No, I think if I can be slightly immodest, we have created markets for ourselves, because 15 years ago, you never saw SUVs in the urban markets. They were primarily a rural or semi-urban market. You would never see a vehicle in a metro city. And we brought products which were aspirational, easy to handle. So we have created markets. We've not followed the trend. We've been market leaders, and that's actually the group's philosophy. If you look at most of our products, we are market leaders in most of the products that we are in. And that helps you lay down the rules of the business rather than follow the rules of the business. So we prefer to be in a position where we can lay the rules of the business.
Given that growth is also uncertain globally, what is your outlook for Mahindra in the next 5 years?
See, we don't make forward-looking statements to stock market, but I would say that we are optimistic. If I had to give you one benchmark, we've not slowed down our investments. So, that's the cue I can give you.
Mr. Nanda, thanks for joining us on INSEAD Knowledge.
My pleasure.